And welcome to the Krueger Show, everybody. Super Bowl Sunday, little pregame style. Welcome to the Krueger Show. Hope everybody's having a great day. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Give the band the rest of the afternoon off. The Niners and the Chiefs, Super Bowl 58. And welcome to our pregame extravaganza. And today's stream sponsored by Locker. Locker combines sports betting, daily fantasy sports, and trivia into a unique contest app that asks players to make in-game predictions and award points based on those outcomes. Platform matches fans against one another and provides cash prize pools distributed at the end of every contest. And they're giving away $5,000 in cash when you play for free during the Super Bowl, or just scan the QR code to download and play with me during the Super Bowl. Drive specific samples, which might include which player will lead the Niners today in rushing or who will catch the most passes for the Chiefs. Once players answer the questions, they can sit back and enjoy the action. All right, let's start with the game, and then we'll get right into the extravaganza and into your questions. And I want to know your predictions on the game, who you think is going to be the MVP, what's the key factor, what's your major concern going into Super Bowl Sunday. All right, pregame picks. It says place pregame picks. Remember, you scan that QR code. All right. Where are our picks, Kev? We have our picks. Not hearing Kev nor seeing Kev. Do we have some pregame picks? Okay, so pregame picks, place pregame picks. No pregame picks. All right. So do we have a contest, Kev, that we're going to go through and people are going to make their selections? All right. So there you go. Pregame picks. Place pregame picks. You can do it right now. All right. So now it's showing me Christian McCaffrey first touchdown for the Niners. The game starts in 3 hours and 39 minutes. All right. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. As far as what you view as the key for the 49ers to win this game, this is going to be the rematch from 4 years ago, right? At that point, the Chiefs beat the 49ers 31-20. This is Kansas City's fourth appearance in the Super Bowl in the last 5 years. The Niners have not won the Super Bowl in a long time. In fact, there are a lot of people walking around in their 20s that have never seen the 49ers win a Super Bowl. In fact, the last Niners Super Bowl win was January of 1995, maybe February of 95. After the 1994 season, the Niners had beaten the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. They took on the Chargers, and they destroyed them as Steve Young threw for 6 touchdown passes on the day. Now, this time around, the Niners are the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Chiefs are the number 3 seed in the AFC. And, if you talk about this game, I mean, there's something on the line for both teams, right? If Kansas City wins, they are firmly ensconced as the modern dynasty. I mean, there aren't that many teams that have won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, and they would be one of them. I mean, the only teams that I can think of would be the mean Joe Green, Terry Bradshaw, Steelers, the Steel Curtain Steelers of the mid-1970s. The Cowboys teams that won in 92, 93, and 95. Those years under Jimmy Johnson. 2 of them were coached by Jimmy, the other by Barry Switzer. And then it's the Brady Belichick Patriots that managed to pull it off twice in two different decades. If you really think about that, that's an amazing accomplishment. And so that's it. Those are the teams that have won 3 times in 5 years. And a victory today would put the Chiefs right there with the greatest 5-year runs in the history of this league. So if the Chiefs win, this cements their dynasty if it already wasn't cemented. For the 49ers, if they win, they can claim that they've been a dynasty under Kyle Shanahan. But Shanahan's right now got that label as the best head coach in football who's never won a Super Bowl, and Brock Purdy is still being called Mr. Irrelevant. And if those guys somehow can combine together and win a Super Bowl, um, that would be absolutely incredible. I mean, and it would add to the Shanahan legacy. It would add to the Niner trophy case. It would give them the most Super Bowl trophies in the trophy case, 6 of any team in the history of the league. And it would further validate Brock Purdy as the 49ers franchise quarterback going forward. It would obviously make Kyle Shanahan's career complete and put him on a Hall of Fame trajectory. This is his 7th season, and this will be his 2nd Super Bowl appearance. And of course, the first one came 4 years ago against the Chiefs. So if the Niners win, he joins his father as a Super Bowl winning head coach. And then they would become the first father-son head coaching duo to win a title in the history of not just the NFL, the history of the 4 major men's pro sports in America. It's never been done that a father and a son have both led their respective teams to a championship. And then the Shanahans would have a place all their own. So let's talk a little bit about the 49ers for a second. They had a very interesting regular season. They racked up 12 wins. They had a plus 193 point differential, 3rd best in the NFL. They were dominant in the conference. They wrapped up the NFC's number 1 seed in week 17. And, I mean, a lot of people questioned all year long, could the Niners come from behind? Could they win a grimy game? And really, we didn't see that. We didn't see them do it. They got into the game against Cleveland in Cleveland, and it was rainy, and they got down against a really good defense, and Brock Purdy drove them the length of the field, and Shanahan kind of punted on the last play, not actually punted, but could have ran a play and decided not to. And so he settled for a Jake Moody 41-yard field goal attempt, and Moody missed it. So there you go. That was the grimy win the Niners should have had that they didn't have. So they entered the playoffs with this question mark of, can they win if they fall behind? And I don't think any of us really wanted to see it actually happen, but it happened against Green Bay. They fell behind and they came back and they won a grimy game. And then it happened again against Detroit, where they fell into a 24-7 hole, and only Dan Campbell, in his poor second half game management, allowed them to get back in it. So the 49ers are in some ways really rolling, in that they've proven kind of the question of the year, which is, can they win an ugly game? Can they win coming from behind? Can Brock Purdy engineer a 4th quarter comeback? He did it against the Packers in the divisional round. And then the Niners came back from 17 down against the Lions in the NFC Championship game. So in some ways, we could be sitting here and say, hey, you know what? They had a great regular season. They've got a bevy of weapons, and they proved that they could win the grimy games, and they proved they could come from behind and bring on the Chiefs. But then there's a lot of people that are looking at those last couple games and going, well, wait a second. If you can't put away Green Bay and their 28th rated run D, and you can't put away Detroit and their joke of a pass D, how are you going to do against Kansas City and Steve Spagnuolo and Chris Jones and Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed and Nick Bolton and these guys? A top 5 defense across the board. So that's the big question for the 49ers. I mean, what can they do against the Chiefs defense in this game? That's a major question. And then let's flip it over and talk about Andy Reid. Andy Reid is now in his 11th season as the coach of the Chiefs, and this may be it. I mean, he may be, on the way out. But he's 4th on the NFL's all-time head coaching win list with 283. He's seeking his 3rd Super Bowl title in his 5th Super Bowl appearance. And if the Chiefs win, he's going to be the 5th coach in the history of the game with 3 Super Bowls. Can you name the others? It's Bill Belichick, who's got 6. Chuck Noll's got 4, and then Walsh and Gibbs, Bill Walsh and Joe Gibbs, have 3 each, and Andy Reid would be in that category. So that's pretty lofty territory. And, the Chiefs won 11-6. They lost more regular season games than in any other season that they've had Mahomes at quarterback. Mahomes did not have a great statistical year. He really didn't. This is one of the worst statistical seasons of his career in many categories. Chiefs were not among the league leaders in points, as they usually are. Instead, they finished 15th in scoring. This Chiefs team, you think of the Chiefs, you think of Tyreek Hill and Andy Reid and all the scoring they've done. They were 15th this year in scoring, averaged 21.8 points a game, and their defense carried them for much of the year, and they wound up in second overall in points allowed. So this Chiefs team is really led by their defense and Spagnuolo and company, which give up 17 a game. So that's really it. And if you look at the Chiefs this year, they really have come alive in the playoffs. They beat the Dolphins at Arrowhead Stadium in the wild card round in freezing conditions. And they put up 26 in that day, won 26-7. So a nice 19-point win. And then they had to play on the road for the divisional round for the first time, since the 2015 season, pre-Mahomes. And the question was, could the Chiefs go on the road to Buffalo and Baltimore and beat these teams? And the answer is yes, because they beat Baltimore 27-24 in Buffalo. Or they beat Buffalo, I should say, 27-24 in Buffalo. And in that game, they went to, three tight ends a lot, and they just powered the run game right at the Bills. And then they went to Baltimore, and they beat the Ravens 17-10 in Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. And in a lot of ways, I kind of feel like Todd Monken, might have lost that game just because Baltimore was the number one rushing offense in the NFL, number one rushing offense in the NFL. And they gave each of their two running backs 3 carries, and both of them ran effectively, and they just stopped running. They said, you know what? We'll make it a passing day. We'll try to show that Lamar, the greatest running quarterback maybe ever, can do it from the pocket. And it didn't work. And so now Kansas City's in the Super Bowl and against the 49ers, and we're going to find out what this looks like. But did the Chiefs get here, or did Baltimore gag it away? There's some question as to how that whole thing came down. So once again, just a little overview right there of the Super Bowl. And we should tell you, of course, this stream sponsored by Locker. Locker combines sports betting, daily fantasy sports, and trivia into a unique contest app that asks players to make in-game predictions and awards points based on those outcomes. Platform matches fans against one another and provides cash prize pools distributed at the end of every contest. And they're giving away $5,000 in cash when you play for free during the Super Bowl, or just scan that QR code to download the Play versus Me during the Super Bowl. Drive specific samples, which might include which player will lead the Niners today in rushing. I'll go with Christian McCaffrey. Who will catch the most passes for the Chiefs? I'll go with Travis Kelce. Anyway, once players answer the questions, then they can sit back and enjoy the action. So there you go, pregame picks, and you can place your pregame picks right there, and you can click that QR code as well. All right, let's go to some of our super chats here. Okay, so Kev says, okay, we can go to some of the pregame picks. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go to some of the pregame picks right now. Okay, here is, before we go to the super chats, we'll go to this. Pregame question number 1. Who will score the first offensive touchdown for the 49ers during the first half? Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Brock Purdy. I'm going to say, Kyle Juszczyk, Elijah Mitchell. You're getting all the options. Ray, Chris Conley, Jordan Mason, Ronnie Bell. I'm going Braden Willis. No. I'm not going Braden Willis. I'm going to go Deebo. I think Deebo is the tone setter. They use him to set the tone. All right, who will score the first offensive touchdown for the Chiefs during the first half? Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Patrick Mahomes. I'll just say Travis Kelce. I mean, if you're looking for, what's been very consistent for the Chiefs is they look for Kelce a ton in the red zone. No, I'm not going LaMichael P. Ryan, Kev. No, so we're going Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce. All right, question number 3. Which quarterback will throw the longest reception to a receiver during the first half? I'll go with Mahomes. Even though I think Mahomes is going to be trying to operate the quick game, I do think there's a chance that because Ambry Thomas and some of the Niner corners have not looked great, I think there's a chance that they take a shot down the field, like a big shot, like like we're going to operate in the short game all day, kind of a shot, but we're going to take this monster down the field shot to loosen you up, just so you know we're capable of that. So I'll say Mahomes. Will the 49ers or Chiefs return a kickoff or a punt for a touchdown? I will say no. No, they will not. Though history is not on the Niners side if you know your Niners Super Bowl history. All right, there we go. Review your selections. 49er first touchdown scorer in the first half. I'm going Deebo Samuel. Chiefs first touchdown scorer in the first half. I'm going Travis Kelce. Okay, quarterback with the longest reception. I'm going Mahomes. And kickoff or punt return for a touchdown. I'm saying no. All right, there you go. Cool stuff there. And check that out. Download hit the QR code and play with us all afternoon long during the Super Bowl, courtesy of Locker. All right, let's go to some of our let's go to some of our super chats here. Eric Dowling just says, hey, $1.99. Fish and chips. Enjoy the game, LK. Thanks for the Steve Young interview again. Oh, fish and chips. I'm glad to provide that for you guys. I'm glad that Steve was available and got a full hour with him. It was very cool. The Stride Abides. Larry, been a big supporter of your show since its inception. Thank you for incredible insight and analysis. Hoping CMC has a Terrell Davis-like performance minus the migraine. LOL. Mind telling that story? 49ers win. Well, TD got migraines, and he had suffered from migraines, which anybody who's had migraines, it really does affect your field of vision. So, like, whatever you're staring at, you can't see. You're like blinded in your field of vision. And then, of course, the pain and the nausea and all the different things that people get when they get migraines. I mean, everybody's a little bit different, but he suffered with migraines and got one in the Super Bowl. And they tried to just use him as a decoy a little bit at times. But Terrell Davis played through migraines in the Super Bowl and had an incredible performance, one for the ages. So there you go. TD, could CMC become TD today? Niner says, what KC did to the Ravens run game is scary. I hope the Niners have a better counter plan than the Ravens. I gotta kind of disagree. Let's go back. Should we? Let's all collectively go back to that fateful night when the Chiefs beat the Ravens 17-10. All right, Kansas City in that game ran 32 times. Or I should say, Baltimore in that game ran 16 times. They threw it 37 times. This game was 7-7 at the end of the first quarter. It was 17-10 at the end of both the second and third quarter. And finished it was 17-7, I should say, at the end of the half. And then so they were only down by 10 points at that point. And then they were only down by 10 points in the third quarter and ultimately finished up 17-10. The Ravens ran 16 times for 81 yards. The Ravens ran for 5.1 yards per carry. Gus Edwards had 3 carries for 20 yards. He had already been running for almost 7 yards a carry. They just didn't use him the rest of the day. Justice Hill had 3 carries all day. This is the number 1 rushing attack in football. They get into the biggest game of their life at home. They run it 16 times for 5.1 a carry. And they threw it 37 times. You know, I mean, when they only really had Zay Flowers as the only real dangerous weapon. Aguilar, OBJ, Isaiah Likely, Justice Hill. I mean, they had Rashad Bateman and Andrews. Andrews had been out all year. He only caught 2 balls. Bateman's a bust. Odell's old. You know, I mean, they don't have big-time receiving weapons at all. And yet they threw the ball 37 times, and they ran it 16 in a game that they were in. So I totally disagree with the idea that Kansas City shut down their run game. Todd Monken shut down Baltimore's run game. That's how I saw that one. Jesse Wade says, today Michael Miller becomes right about Brock. Michael Miller says that Brock's the greatest quarterback of all time, right? Isn't that where Michael Miller is with Brock? Batman 29, Krug, I watched your show all season. Thanks for the content. Let's do this damn thing. I love that. Faithful to the Bay. There you go. Love it. Batman 29. I need a score prediction in this one. I need a score prediction. All right, those are the supers for right now. And if you want to throw a super in there, feel free. And now I'll read the regular chats as well. But I want to get a little bit more into this matchup. Let's talk about Brock Purdy for a second and the quarterbacks, because I think the quarterbacks, you know, everybody thinks that this is a total mismatch because Patrick Mahomes is a star and Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. Brock Purdy was pick number 262. He was the final pick of the 2022 draft. He potentially today or tonight could become the lowest drafted starting quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And in his career, now Kurt Warner won a Super Bowl. Kurt Warner won a Super Bowl. He was undrafted. So, but we're talking about the lowest drafted player. People saying, well, what about Warner? No, Warner was undrafted. In Brock Purdy's career, he is 21-5. And that doesn't include the Miami game. It's really more like 22-5. 21-5 is his official record. What does that mean? That means that Brock Purdy has won 81% of every game he's ever started, including the playoffs. 81%. So people sitting there going, well, how are the Niners? Why are the Niners favored here? Brock Purdy's won 81% of the games he's ever played. We can start right there if we wanted to. He's the 3rd youngest starting quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl at 24. Only Marino against the Niners at Stanford and Ben Roethlisberger were younger in this moment. So, I mean, right there, you know, Roethlisberger won one and lost one, but I think the first one he lost, right? Marino lost. But Purdy has been attacking the middle of the field. And, you know, 56% of his passes are between the numbers. That's 3rd most in the NFL. 14% are between the hash marks. That is the most in the NFL. But he's also very efficient in this part of the field. He ranks 1st in QBR when throwing between the numbers. He ranks 2nd in QBR when throwing between the hashes. Behind only, wait for it, that's right, Pat Mahomes. But Brock Purdy is the one who leads all quarterbacks in total EPA on passes between the hashes. You know, Purdy plays expertly in Shanahan's offense. And Shanahan loves to attack the middle of the field. And the Niners have a number of weapons between Kittle, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk that run across the middle of the field like they freaking own it. Jawan Jennings. Purdy, as far as weaknesses, now this is kind of interesting. Will Spags go with a lot of man, or will we play a lot of zone? Purdy has only a 61 QBR against zone. That's 12th among quarterbacks. That's the weakness in his game. If you throw some zones at him, he doesn't react as well. His QBR against man is 90. His QBR against zone is 61. Now, the good news for the Niners is the Chiefs play man-to-man coverage at the 5th highest rate in the entire league. They play man-to-man at least 51% of the time. Will they in this game? We don't know. But that's what they did in the regular season. And, Christian McCaffrey, if you look at if the Chiefs do decide to throw a lot of zone at him, running backs receptions against their zone coverage really jump. So you can expect the Niners, if KC tries to match up with Purdy by throwing a lot of zone coverages and trying to confuse him and muddy the picture a little bit, look for him to dump it off to McCaffrey quite a bit in this game. Now let's talk a little bit about Mahomes. Mahomes is an incredible player. He's got a career record of 88-25. So he's won virtually 78%, a little bit under 78% of his starts. He's never lost to the 49ers. 3-0. 3-0 against the Niners, including the Chiefs win in Super Bowl 54. And in those 3 games, he's averaged 341 passing yards, and the Chiefs have averaged 38 points a game. They're third most against any single opponent with him as their starting quarterback. So their offense has had huge days against the 49er defense. Now, it hasn't always been Steve Wilks, right? It's been D'Amico. It's been Saleh. It's been other guys, running the defense. It's not like, Andy Reid owns Steve Wilks. No, he owns the Niners, and he owned them when they had D'Amico, and he owned them when they had Saleh, and we'll see what Wilks can do. But for Mahomes, he's seeking his 3rd Super Bowl title in just his 7th season, something only Tom Brady and Troy Aikman have ever accomplished. So he also could become the first player across the 4 major men's pro sports with 3 championships and 2 league MVPs within his first 7 seasons. First to do that since anybody? It's not football. It's Larry Bird. Larry Bird won 3 championships and 2 league MVPs in his first 7 seasons. Pretty amazing run that Bird had there from 79 through 86. And if you say, what's Mahomes' strength? I think it's his competitive fire. But he also has an uncanny ability of knowing when to mix in the back-breaking run. I think that's the other factor that really stands out about Patrick Mahomes. He drops back to pass. He's either going to pass it, you're going to sack him, or he's going to scramble. And, but really it's those other 2 areas. I mean, he throws a lot of passes, but he refuses to take a sack. He's got a 3.7% sack rate, and he's generated the second most scramble EPA yards this season behind only Josh Allen. So he's really, really hard to sack. He just has an ability to, sense the rush, understand where the pressure is coming from, and beat the pressure. He's been really great at it. Really, really great at it. And so that's where he's incredible. If Reid runs this game the way he ran the AFC title game, it's going to be a lot of high percentage, quick game, and then a couple of runs to Pacheco, and he's going to get to 3rd down and 4th down, and he's going to lean on Patrick to either find Kelsey or a quick timing pass, or Patrick just to run. He likes to scramble to keep drives alive. And that to me is his greatest attribute. Now, the guy's got a howitzer. He can really throw the football. But But to me, it's his scramble ability and his ability to get out of would-be sacks and create positive plays. That's his game, and he's really good. Now, what are his weaknesses? His completion percentage over expectation this season, postseason included, is a negative minus 1.1%, which ranks 23rd out of 30 NFL quarterbacks, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. A lot of that's on his receivers. His receivers have a 7.3% drop rate, which is the second worst in the NFL. They also have a league low 28 catch score. ESPN's got the receiver tracking metrics. But, for the most part, Mahomes is accurate. He just hasn't had the weapons to make the plays. Now, a couple of questions that I think are interesting. Are the 49ers going to use Mooney Ward against Rashee Rice everywhere all over the field? Or do they put Mooney Ward on Kelsey and try to shut down Kelsey? When the Niners played the Seahawks, Ward traveled with DK Metcalf. And what I mean by that is DK's in the slot, Ward's in the slot. DK's on the right side, Ward's over there. DK's on the left side, Ward's over there. He traveled. Anywhere DK went, Ward went. But the Niners play a lot of zone coverage. And they play, and they're pretty militant about, their zone principles and playing a lot of zone. In the regular season, quarterbacks had a QBR of 43.9 against the Niners zone coverage, seventh lowest in the NFL. But that number jumped to 59.8 when the Niners played man coverage, 14th in the NFL. So, the Niners feel most comfortable playing zone. I like the idea of playing zone against Mahomes simply from the standpoint, if you play man, you turn your back on them every single time. They can just come up with route combinations that you're either going to have to cover or you're going to have to cover the run of Mahomes. He's going to know where to run and how to run, and nobody's going to be there to defend that run if they play tons of man. So if you look at the numbers of Mahomes, I like the idea of playing him against zone coverage a whole lot more. And then if you look at his numbers against man and zone, I think you got to go with the zone. I mean, this is what Mahomes has done this year. Against man-to-man coverage, 70.4 QBR, 21 touchdowns, 7 picks. That's what he's done against man. Against zone, that's 70.4 QBR drops to 64.8. Those 21 touchdowns drop to 6. Those 7 interceptions are exactly the same, 7 more against zone. So he's got 6 touchdowns and 7 picks against the zone. He's got 21 touchdowns and 7 picks against man. Play zone. Mixed coverages. But I don't look at Rashee Rice and go, you know what? Screw it. We're going to have to go man and we have to have all this extra coverage against Rashee Rice. No, I like Rashee Rice. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think Rashee Rice is even in the top 5 of receivers that they've gone against in these playoffs. Amon-Ra, really good player. Jameson Williams has got unbelievable speed. All the Green Bay receivers, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, all those guys, they all had different skills, but a little bit more well-rounded than Rashee. Rashee's big and got some good and can run a little bit, but I'm not changing my coverage to account for Rashee Rice. I'm just not. So I'm going to play zone. And if that means that Rashee, Ward gets on Rashee, then possibly he does. But I'm not going to play man coverage all day and put Mooney on some island all day against Rashee Rice, when in reality in the red zone they're looking for Kittle first anyway. So this is going to be interesting because even though these teams played 4 years ago, these aren't the same teams. They're not even close. I think there's only 14 players combined from both teams that have played in the last game. So the Chiefs are a much better defensive team right now than they used to be. They lead with their defense. They've leaned in the past with their offense, but now it's a big part of the big part of their game is defense. Um, it's funny. They got a lead against the Ravens in the AFC title game, and they just said, you know what? We're shutting it down, man. We're not taking too many chances. We're just going to lean on our defense to hold them down. And they did. And their defense created 3 turnovers, 2 in the fourth quarter. The Chiefs were second in the NFL in sacks during the regular season. Now, they don't have Charles Omenihu. And to me, that's a major angle on this game, that there's no Omenihu, because Omenihu sets the edge in the run game and gives you a big, athletic, long-armed, powerful, strong edge rusher who can get to the quarterback. So I loved Omenihu with the Niners. I never wanted to see him go. And then he went and had a nice year in Kansas City, but they lost him, and he is not playing today. And to me, that's a major factor in this game. Yeah, the Chiefs were second in the league in sacks, but Chris Jones is the big force, but they don't rely only on Chris Jones. I mean, Chris Jones, if you're a 49er fan, Chris Jones reminds you of Aaron Donald, Mean Joe Green, Reggie White, Bruce Smith, all rolled into one. I mean, he's Keith Millard, he's Kevin Dolman, he's everybody. I mean, this guy has just been absolutely a monster. And if they can't rein him in somehow, if they can't neutralize him in some way, they're not going to win this game. I mean, Chris Jones absolutely has dominated the 49ers. They line him up inside. They line him up outside. Now with Noah Omenihu, he may line up outside more, possibly against Colton McKivitz. Niners have to give McKivitz some help. Now, McKivitz is strong. Don't get me wrong. And I'd rather have a big-bodied guy than a speed guy over there. But still, Chris Jones is a mismatch, and you got to help out McKivitz if they line him up over the 49ers right tackle. Then there's George Karlaftis, the kid from Purdue, who tied Chris Jones for the team lead in sacks this year. They each had 10.5. Karlaftis has 2.5 in the playoffs. So he's really, really good. And then on the back end, they've got all these versatile guys that Spagnuolo can do all kinds of things with. L'Jarius Sneed, he is a elite corner. He's a free agent at the end of the year. He's playing for a contract. For much of the year, he traveled with the opponent's top wide receiver. So, if you look at the year that Sneed had, just to put his year in perspective, he did not give up a touchdown pass this year until the divisional round against Buffalo. Not one all year. So, it's you think of the way Buffalo looks at, or the way Kansas City looks at their defense. They've got Sneed, who's just an absolute shutdown force on the back end. You got 2 linebackers in Bull and Gay who run as well as any duo in the game. And then you got Karlaftis and Chris Jones and Omenihu. Now you don't have Omenihu, but Karlaftis and Chris Jones each have 10.5 sacks. So you see why Kansas City came out as conservatively as they did against Baltimore. They're like, hey, you know what? We're going to come out in the quick game and the short game. We're not going to take any chances. We don't think our tackles are very good. We don't think they can stand up in pass protection. So guess what we're not going to do? We're never going to ask them to stand up in pass protection. We're just going to dump it to whoever's open within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage after the snap. I mean, against Baltimore, Mahomes didn't even drop back and set his feet. He literally was just throwing the ball to anybody that was open on first and second down off the line of scrimmage. So to me, this is where this game is really going to be decided. How good of a coordinator is Steve Wilks? Is he going to get up on the line of scrimmage and challenge those guys in the quick game early in this game and make them either run it with Pacheco or make them take a 5 or 7 step drop and throw it down the field? Or is he going to give that to them and allow Mahomes to do what he did last week? The Ravens, McDonald got the Seattle job and everybody says he's a genius. Was it genius to allow Mahomes to start the AFC title game 11 for 11 and never to have to really take any chances of significance with the ball in the air at all? Because that's essentially what Baltimore did. They gave him his stop routes, they gave him his checkdowns, they gave him his hitches, they gave Kelsey free releases, and Mahomes just played the quick game and moved the ball down the field, got in the end zone. Baltimore helped out by making a couple dumb penalties, but basically they just went quick game and Pacheco, got up, a couple touchdowns, got up 14-7, and then just kind of shut it down and said, hey, we'll let them make bigger mistakes and we'll see if they can come back. And they couldn't. So now the Niners are more explosive offensively. So does Kansas City take a different approach to what they try to do offensively in their own regard? Or do they come out, ball control, run Pacheco up the middle behind Creed Humphrey, little checkdowns, little stop routes, little swing passes, and get into the red zone, get a lead, and then try to crush Brock Purdy and the Niner offense like they did Baltimore's offense, and just try to make this a super low scoring game. The Niners, I think, sat on the ball against a more explosive offense and got run over in the second half against Kansas City 4 years ago. It would not surprise me in the slightest if Kansas City's defense dominated the first half of this game and Kansas City's offense, instead of putting up big points, got super conservative and put up a low point total. And you had a low scoring, relatively close Kansas City lead at halftime, only to see this time around the Niners with the more explosive offense run them over in the second half. If you say, what game do you envision? It's probably it right there. That's probably what I envision right there, that somehow Kansas City shuts the Niners down in the first half offensively, but then gets run over in the second half by Kyle Shanahan's offense that figures it out, which means that the rest of us are going to sit here stressed, going crazy for 3 hours again, only to watch the Niners dig themselves a hole and dig out of it. But I could definitely see that kind of a game. Definitely could see that. All right, let's do this. Let's go back to the chats. Batman had his chat there. We've got another one here from Paul in Gracia. It says, watching the game live in Norway, Krug. My first game was in Kizar in 1969. Let's go. Wow, look at that. Look at that. And you're dropping me $119 in Norway money? Somebody tell me that transfers to like 1.7 million of a donation. Probably not, but that's I'm hoping. Paul, thank you for that one. Appreciate you, buddy. James Foster says Ayuk against Jalen Watson. He's their Ambry. Okay. I could see the Niners trying to pick on Jalen Watson. That would be a good one. That would be an absolute good one right there. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 49er defense, but first, let's talk a little bit more about Locker. This stream is sponsored by Locker. Locker combines sports betting, daily fantasy sports, and trivia into a unique contest app that asks players to make in-game predictions and awards points based on those outcomes. Platform matches fans against one another and provides cash prize pools distributed at the end of every contest. That's right. They're giving away $5,000 in cash when you play for free during the Super Bowl, or just scan the QR code that's on the screen right now to download, and you can play with me during the Super Bowl. Drive specific samples, or we should say, which player will lead the 49ers today in rushing. We went with that one. Who will catch the most passes for the Chiefs? All right. So then all you got to do is answer a couple of these questions, and you can sit back and enjoy the action. All right. Awesome. Kev, should we go for a few more trivia questions, or are we good right there? Okay. we're solid. We're solid right there on our trivia questions. But there you go. Just hit that QR code and you can play with me or play by yourself throughout the Super Bowl. And of course, this stream is sponsored by Locker. We appreciate all the people at Locker for sponsoring this 49ers Chiefs pregame live stream. All right, let's talk a little bit about the 49ers advantage on the defensive side of the ball for a second. I really do think the 49ers have a distinct advantage here in that they have the two best linebackers in the game that nobody really talks about. You know, people talk about Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith and people, but they don't talk a lot about Fred Warner, and they talk even less about Dre Greenlaw. And now you're giving these great players a week off. And I talked to Dre during one of the media gatherings the other night, and I said, "How you feeling, man?" He says, "I'm feeling great, feeling absolutely great. You know, it's been a long year. He's had ankle problems, shoulder problems, foot problems, quad problems. You know, but I mean, he's had a week off, and he's rested, and he's ready, and he's motivated, and they know they let one get away." Fred Warner, I asked Fred Warner about playing in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs 4 years ago. He said, "Krug, it scarred me forever." I said, "What? Scarred you forever?" He thought they had it. He thought they had it, man. They were up 10 in the fourth. He's like, "I thought they had it. Thought we had it. I could picture the Super Bowl ring. I let myself think about it, and they came back and they got us." And he goes, "I'm scarred forever from that game. I never can enjoy a game until it's absolutely in the books." So Fred Warner, this is his second chance at it. Dre Greenlaw plays as hard as any 49er. In a lot of ways, Dre Greenlaw is the leader of the Niners. It's funny because him and Purdy's lockers are right next to each other. And you could argue that the leaders of the team are Brock Purdy on offense and Dre Greenlaw on defense. Now, I know Niner fans would say, "Oh, come on, Krug. It's Fred Warner. It's Fred Warner." Yeah, it's Fred Warner. But as far as the kinds of plays that you can make, physical plays that get everybody else ready to roll, Dre Greenlaw is their intimidator. Dre Greenlaw he's the guy that everybody's worried about seeing in the crosshairs because he will starch you. He will absolutely crush you. And I expect these linebackers to be critical in this game, especially when you look at the Chiefs' offensive tendencies in this postseason run. Kansas City has averaged 127.3 rushing yards per game in 3 playoff wins, with Isaiah Pacheco checking in at 84.7 yards per game. So the one thing about Warner and Greenlaw, they diagnose quickly, especially in the run game. And they play downhill. They fill gaps. They're difference makers. And both these guys can impact the game in the passing game as well. They get depth on their drops. They close on second level throws and expect them to do a lot of that against Mahomes. You know, when Mahomes is checking it down, unlike some of these other games where he checks it down, there's going to be a price to be paid in just pain for the guys who catch those check down passes, because Greenlaw and Warner step up with force and they dislodge the ball. They separate guys from the ball. They pick off passes. They get their hands on passes, and they bring you to the ground, usually solo. They don't even need any real help. So to me, if you said, what's the Niners' advantage in this game? It's Warner and Greenlaw. If you said, why are the Niners going to win this game? I like Warner and Greenlaw against Pacheco, and I think Warner and Greenlaw also have the ability, whether it be early in this game or late in this game, to shut down the quick game. The 49ers are the number one defense in the NFL on passes in the middle of the field. They're especially strong on intermediate passes up the middle. So where if you're Mahomes, if you're going quick game, if you watch that Raven tape, so many of his quick game passes were passes, up in the middle of the field between 6 and 15 yards in the air. And the 49ers on passes up the middle between 6 and 15 air yards, the 49ers allowed a 53% catch rate. The NFL average on those passes is 67%. And they're giving up a 53% catch rate. This is where they're better than you. Warner is obviously vital in pass coverage, but he is fantastic against the run as well. He a lot of times, the Chiefs have Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is absolutely their number one target in the red zone. Well, who's going to be on him? Fred Warner. And yet, Greenlaw also has been fantastic against the tight end. If you look at targets to opposing tight ends this year, 42 of them were against Dre Greenlaw, 28 against Warner. No other 49er defender was above 12 targets on to the tight end. So it's Greenlaw a lot on the tight end, and Greenlaw's a force. And when Mahomes is looking for Travis Kelce, Greenlaw is the player that's likely to be in coverage against Travis Kelce. So Warner's a little bit better in coverage. He had the better coverage DVOA, but Greenlaw and Warner have both gotten really a whole lot better in the second half of the season. Before the Week 9 bye, Greenlaw allowed 24% DVOA in coverage, while Warner was at minus 1%. Since Week 10, Greenlaw has allowed a minus 6% DVOA percentage in coverage. Warner's at minus 28%. Negative numbers, by the way, are better for defenders since they represent less offensive success. This is according to Aaron Schatz. So expect those two guys to really be huge players against Kelce and in the middle of the field. I think Greenlaw and if you say, why do you feel like the Niners are a team that's not necessarily fully respected? I just don't think that Warner and Greenlaw get the kind of respect that they deserve. The other guy that I've been talking about all week that I think is a player to watch is Jair Brown. Jair Brown was a Niners third-round pick in the 2023 draft. They traded up to get him, and he finished second in tackles in the NFC Championship game with 10. And, if you look at, in coverage, this guy's got 2 interceptions this season. So he can play some coverage. He's got, highly productive interceptor of the football at Penn State, but he's also very forceful against the run. And to me, he's a real key guy because Pacheco is 215 pounds and he runs really hard. It's hard to bring him to the ground with just a smaller guy. But Jair Brown is I think, he's like a linebacker. He's like a little linebacker out there. He will hit you in the run game, and if the Niners get a lead, he might be able to pick off a pass or two. So the big question is, can the Niners handle Travis Kelce? If you look at the playoffs, including the playoffs, the Niner defense has played zone coverage on 67.1% of opponent dropbacks. So they play single high, they play split safety looks, and Kelce is, a guy he's been incredible in these playoffs. I mean, look at what he's done in the playoffs. Travis Kelce they've targeted him 27 times in the playoffs. He's caught 23 of the 27 for 262 yards. 38% of those yards coming after the catch. So, it's to me, if the Niners do play man, look for Mahomes to find Kelce, likely against the strong safety, Tayshaun Gibson Jr., or Tayshaun Gibson Sr., I should say. Kelce against Gibson in man coverage is probably that's probably the dream scenario. If you're Andy Reid, see if you can get the Niners to play some kind of man coverage. And when they do, try to go to Kelce against Gibson. So the other factor here that has to be included when you talk about the Chiefs and their coverage, it's Kansas City ranked 5th in DVO against number 1 receivers. They allowed a league low 49.4 yards per game to those receivers in the regular season. that's a lot of L'Jarius Sneed. Sneed has been fantastic. He finished 15th among all corners with a minus 22% DVOA allowed. And he's improved as the season has gone on. In the first 9 weeks, he allowed a minus 10% DVOA. In the next 9 weeks, he allowed a minus 40% DVOA. And in the 3 playoff games, he's allowed a minus 50% DVOA in coverage, which would have ranked second in the year in the NFL if he had done that in the regular season. So Sneed is not just a great player. He's there, he is an X factor and he can take somebody away. Now the question is, who does Andy Reid choose to put Sneed on in this game? Does he put him on Ayuk, or does he put him on Debo, or does he rotate him back and forth whoever the hot receiver is? So if you're going to say who's going to get the ball and who's not going to get the ball, my guess is the Niners will go at the receiver that's not going against L'Jarius. So I think that's something to look for in this game. And then overall, I think the other guy you got to look for is Rashee Rice if you're the Niners. I mean, the Kansas City passing game was really not very strong this year. But, man, Rashee Rice has given them a whole level of rejuvenation since he's become the top wide receiver target. He caught 79 balls this year for 938 yards and 7 touchdowns, but he only started 8 games. But in the 3 playoff games, he's added 20 catches for 223 and a touchdown, and he's made teams account for him so they can't totally double Travis Kelce. So that's going to be interesting. The Niners, I mean, if the Chiefs are going to wind up beating the 49ers, I think Rashee Rice is going to have to step up. And the Niners are going to be leaning towards Kelce in the red zone. The Niners are going to be tilting their defense towards Kelce on third downs. And that means Rashee Rice, who's a good route runner and has dependable hands, could get one-on-one coverage. And that means Mahomes may target him early and maybe often. So it's a really interesting matchup when you think about how this game goes. Now, who's going to win the game? ESPN had 64 experts weigh in, 49 of the 64, so almost 77% picked Kansas City. The Niners were only picked by 15 of the 64, so 23%. The most common prediction final score was 27-24 Chiefs, and then 27-21 Chiefs. So as far as who's going to win the MVP, there's a lot of votes. It's funny. Most people say the quarterbacks, right? Of the 64 experts who they had asked who's going to win the MVP, 59% picked Mahomes. Purdy was the second choice. McCaffrey was the third choice. So, the one thing about Christian McCaffrey, he's been really good in big games. In 5 playoff games with the Niners, McCaffrey has 6 total touchdowns and is averaging 112 yards. So he is a great call to win the MVP. Mahomes is obviously the safest call. Somebody said, hey, how about somebody who's not a quarterback? What about Fred Warner? If somehow Fred Warner made a bunch of plays, I could see him being the MVP. Mahomes is a 2-time Super Bowl champion and an MVP. So, it's like, he's now won 5 straight postseason games, or he's gone 5 straight postseason games without an interception. He's playing at a really, really high level. So I would probably lean towards Mahomes. I will give you one sleeper MVP candidate. You may want to throw $5 on Jair Brown. Now, why? Why would you say that? I expect Kansas City to come out and run the ball a lot. And I expect the 49ers to win the game. So Jair Brown is going to be a major factor stopping the run. So it would not shock me if Jair Brown had 8 or 9 tackles in the first half, all against Pacheco in the run game. And then I expect the 49er offense to get cooking in the second half. And then it could be where Jair Brown seals this game with an interception late. And you may look up at the end of this game where the offense has been spread around to, 4 or 5 different guys, and Jair Brown's got 12 tackles and a game-clinching interception. And in that case, you could see Jair Brown winning the MVP. Now, you can get incredible odds on it, and it's obviously a low percentage play. But just if you're one of those, give me something I might be able to spend, a little and make a lot on, take a little flyer on Jair Brown as the MVP. And you heard it here first. All right, a couple things I think that have to be factored into this game that have to be mentioned here. The 49ers have led for only 22.9% of the time against Detroit and Green Bay in their 2 playoff games. It's the second lowest percentage of time leading in the playoffs entering the Super Bowl. Only the 94 Chargers, who got destroyed by the Niners, led by less amount of time than the Niners have. So is that a bad indication that the 49ers maybe aren't as good as we think? It could be. Also could mean they're due. But that's interesting to me. The Niners are also only the 4th team to have 4,000-yard passer in Purdy and 4 players with 1,000 scrimmage yards. So McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle all went over 1,000 yards. In a lot of ways, I think that makes the Niners very difficult to defend. You don't know where Purdy's going with the football. The other thing to look for in this game, can the Niners get off to a fast start? Brock Purdy has a 91 QBR in the second half of games in this postseason. That sounds great, but he only has a 59 QBR in the first half. The Niners are averaging 22 points per game in the second half, but they're scoring just 7 points a game in the first half. So I asked Brock Purdy about this the other day. I said, Brock, how do you guys get off to, a faster start? And he said, you know what? It's really a mindset. He's like, this team plays best when our backs are against the wall. So hopefully they can kind of convince themselves in the beginning of this game that their backs are against the wall and get off to a faster start offensively. If the Niners can put up some points offensively in the first half in this game, I'm going to feel real good about their chances in the second half. They've been very good in the second half. But once again, they're averaging 7 points a game in the first half and 22 a game in the second half. How about they score 21 points in the first half today and back it up with a strong second half? If they do that, they're going to be tough to beat. Christian McCaffrey probably would be the guy. You said, give me a game plan, Krug. I want to run Christian McCaffrey a ton. He led the NFL in rushing yards during the regular season. He was almost a 1,500-yard rusher. He's the first rushing champion to reach the Super Bowl since Sean Alexander did it with the Seahawks in 2005, and they wind up losing that game, I believe. And he could become the first running back rushing champion, I should say, to win the Super Bowl since Terrell Davis with the migraines in 1998. So I would say, there's no reason to rest him. And I know we've been calling on, diversified usage of the backfield all year. But this is the game where if Shanahan wants to ride McCaffrey till the wheels fall off, this is the game to do it. Because you got all off season to rest up. And I'll say this about Christian, man. He is serious about this game. He wants this one in the worst way. He's all business. So there's worse things than you could do than feature Christian McCaffrey. I think one guy that I have to see touch the ball a lot in both halves is Deebo Samuel. In the first game in Super Bowl 54, 4 years ago, Deebo, was on pace to win the MVP. He was having an incredible first half. He got 2 touches in the second half. Can't happen. He's got to touch the ball. The other point to be aware of, Jake Moody has missed 4 kicks in the past 3 games. He's 3 of 6 on field goals, 9 of 10 on PATs. This guy missed just 3 kicks in the first 16 games of the season. He went 21 out of 24 and then perfect 58 for 58 on PATs. He's missed 4 kicks in the past 3 games, 3 field goals and an extra point. You can't lean on Jake Moody. And then to me, a lot about why I'm so big on Deebo If you look at this season for the Niners, including the playoffs, they're averaging 7.1 yards per play when Debo's on the field. They average 5.5 yards per play when he's off the field. Whether he's 100% or not, he's got to be out there. He's got to be out there. They're a much more explosive looking team. Even if he's used as a decoy, you got to have Debo out there. So those are some of the numbers to remember. Mahomes has 14 playoff wins as a starting quarterback, tied with Peyton and Elway and Bradshaw for the third most by a starting quarterback since 1950, trailing only Joe Montana with 35 and Joe Montana with 16 and Tom Brady with 35. Kelsey's had amazing numbers in the playoffs. They got to somehow shut down Kelsey. Chiefs receivers had the highest drop percentage in the NFL during the regular season at 6.2%. But their drop percentage in the postseason is just 3.3%. That would have been ninth best in the NFL. So I don't know if that's even really a theme. So the key number for Kansas City is 20 defensively. They're 13-2, including the playoffs, when they hold their opponents to 20 points or less. When their opponents score 21 or more, they're 1-4. So the Niners have got to put up points in this game. They got to get to 24. If they get to 24, they got a great shot to win. If they get to 30, they got a great shot to win. By the way, the Chiefs are 9-3 when Taylor Swift is in attendance, and she will supposedly make it to this game. As far as a quick prediction on this thing, I'm going to say the 49ers win 31-20. I think that it's going to be a big, it's going to be a big game where Shanahan kind of rights some of the wrongs of the past. In Shanahan's two previous Super Bowls, one as the head coach with the Niners, the other as the OC with the Falcons, he was ripped in the postgame for abandoning the run too much with his play calling. And I don't think he's going to do that today with Christian McCaffrey. It's funny. The Chiefs defense has done a really good job against running backs in the postseason, but man, in the regular season, they were vulnerable. They had an NFL worst 27% run stop win rate. So I expect the Niners to run the ball in this game. This is going to be a major part of this thing. And as far as defensively for the 49ers, I know a lot of people are like, sack Mahomes. I don't think the Niners are going to get too many opportunities to sack Mahomes. He was intercepted at least once in all 5 regular season games he played. In the I should say, there's been a lot of improvement on Mahomes in the playoffs. He was intercepted at least once in all but 5 regular season games that he played. So he threw a lot of picks, but he's yet to be picked off even once in the playoffs. And he was sacked 13 times in 5 games in December, but he's only gone down twice in 3 playoff games since. And to me, this is all based on how they're running their offense. They're just going quick game and Pacheco until they have a lead. And then they'll drop Mahomes back to pass. So that's what the key to this game is, stopping the quick game and stopping Isaiah Pacheco. The Niners can shut down that quick game, shut down Pacheco, and make Mahomes actually drop 5 and 7 steps. Then I think you can sack him. Then I think he will throw picks. And I think that really is the key. As far as injuries go, the Chiefs will be without Charles Omenihu. They lost Derek Nottie for the season in the playoffs. So there's no question they're going to have to lean on the rookie from K-State, Felix Anadike Uzuma. He's going to have to play some. Joe Thuney, their all-pro guard, is not going to go, but Nick Allegretti filled in well in the AFC Championship game. Allegretti's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's about 320 pounds, very strong, not very quick. So maybe Hargrave can beat him inside on some pass rush. Niners roll into this game. Health is not the issue. George Kittle has had a sore toe, but he did practice. Didn't practice last week, but he says he's got no concerns about the toe. Talanoa Hufanga tore the ACL in the right knee in November. He's done for the year. Other than that, the 49ers come into this game totally healthy. So health will not be an issue. Will officiating be an issue? That's possible. Bill Vinovich leads his second Super Bowl crew in the past 5 years. He did not. He was the lead referee in Super Bowl 54 when the Chiefs and 49ers matched up, and his crew threw a total of 11 flags, 2 of which were declined. Of the remaining 9, 5 went against the Niners, 4 against the Chiefs. You know, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I've got to mention that I feel like their tackles hold Nick Bosa. Nick was asked about it by me earlier, and he's like, yeah, they hold a lot. But I don't know that the Niners are going to get a lot of calls in this game, and I don't know that there's going to be a lot of sacks overall. So as far as the trend, you know, the Chiefs are looking to become the 4th straight underdog to cover in the Super Bowl, including upset wins by last season's Chiefs and an upset win by the 2020 Buccaneers against the Chiefs. No quarterback has been better as an underdog than Mahomes. He's 10-1-1 against the spread and 9-3 outright as an underdog. I mean, those are the best marks of any quarterback in the Super Bowl era. So he'll be an underdog in 3 straight games for only the second time in his career, along with his first 3 career starts. The Niners, of course, trying to reach the Super Bowl. They haven't covered a playoff game all year. You know, I mean, that's the thing. They're the only team to be favored in every game this season. Favorites, by the way, are 36-21 outright and 27-28-2 against the spread in the Super Bowl. Overs are 27-28-1, excluding Super Bowl 1. The current total of 47.5 would be the lowest since Super Bowl 50. So they're expecting kind of a low-scoring game. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect as far as the number. You know, if you said to me, what do you expect? You know, I think 49ers can score on Kansas City's defense, and I think Kansas City's going to be able to score on the Niner offense. So I would probably lean more with the over. I could see more of a game like the Buffalo game where they try to run it with 3 tight ends and you know, shorten the game, but it still winds up being I think that was 27-24, something like that. But overall, I'm going to say 31-20 49ers. And I think the difference in this game is I think the 49ers are going to be able to run the ball with Debo and McCaffrey. And I think Brock Purdy's going to be able to make enough plays finding his receivers since he's got a bunch of them. I think the 49ers will do a better job in this game than they did in the Super Bowl 54 of protecting the quarterback from the line. And I think Mahomes is, you know, will turn it over at least once in this game. I think the Niners will shut down the short game and, excuse me, a little bit of Isaiah Pacheco. But I just don't really believe that Rashee Rice and Pacheco and Kelsey alone is enough to beat this 49er team. I think Brock Purdy's going to play an incredible game. I think the place is going to be rocking and rolling with lots of Niners fans, and I like the 49ers to beat the Chiefs 31-20. I think Kansas City's the kind of team that, you know, there's enough inconsistency with them offensively that they're going to be in that 17-24 range. And I think the 49ers are a team that is going to get to 30, 35, even against this Chiefs defense. And so I like the 49ers to get the win. I'll say 31-20. Niners win by 11. I feel pretty confident that the 49ers are going to fire a better effort in this game than they did against Detroit and a better effort in this game than they did against Green Bay. I like Brock Purdy with a dry football. I like the 49ers on a fast surface. So overall, I would say give me the Niners 31-20 to win this game. All right, one more mention here. Excuse me. The stream is sponsored by Locker. Locker combines sports betting, daily fantasy sports, and trivia into a unique contest app that asks players to make in-game predictions and awards points based on those outcomes. A platform matches fans against one another and provides cash prize pools distributed at the end of every contest. They're giving away $5,000 in cash when you play for free during the Super Bowl, or just scan the QR code to download and play with me during the Super Bowl. So lots of cool stuff on there. Check that out. And thanks to all of you guys for jumping in on this. We got a couple more supers, excuse me, that we have to get to. Got a little bit of an itch in my throat here. Take a little pull of water. Get these last supers. And we appreciate everybody jumping in on the stream. Go for broke. Says Brock Purdy is far better in the second half of games this year. His passer rating in the first half is 106.6. It's 121.3 in the second half. He's been much better in the second half. Mongreen Eggcorn. Krug, it's my nom de plume. Are the effing boys going to get home today for TFLs on Pacheco or sacks on Mahomes? Hair on fire. Hashtag tight box. I think TFLs on Pacheco, yes. Sacks on Mahomes. Mahomes doesn't get sacked a lot. And I expect Kansas City to come out in the first half with a big short game. So I would say that the 49ers, whatever the sack total is, go under. I don't think it's going to be a big sack total game. I don't think Purdy's going to get sacked a ton. I really don't think the Niners are going to sack Mahomes a ton. I'd love to see it. I don't think we're going to in this game. Mike Monahan, I like pigs. I like pickles. There you go. Appreciate you. Ben Affleck's double chin. Krug, besides pig and a pickle to go, what are you eating? You know what? I got to go inside the house and ask my 14-year-old what he wants me to cook for the Super Bowl. But I think we'll probably go maybe some wings and maybe some chips and dip. Usually the kids like some of the hors d'oeuvres that I'll throw out, but definitely some wings. You got to go wings. It's Super Bowl Sunday. Go for broke. 1 year, 2 months, and 1 week. That's how long it's been since Purdy had significant playing time, since December 4th, 2022, and coming off major elbow surgery. Imagine what winning the Super Bowl would mean. Oh my God. I have thought about it. An amazing thing. I do think the 49ers are getting this one today. I'll feel great once we do the post game, knowing that the Niners have gotten this 6 Lombardi. And join us on the post game as well on the Krug Show. Thanks to everybody. And of course, thanks to our sponsor, Locker. And once again, go Niners. Final prediction, 31-20 49ers. Kev wants to do a few more picks here. Okay, let's do some picks. Wait a second. Let me get the comment out of the way. All right, who will score the last offensive touchdown for the 49ers during the second half? I'm going to go with Elijah Mitchell. Where is it? Go with Elijah Mitchell. He's the put-away back. That's who Shanahan goes to when he's trying to put those games away. Who will score the last offensive touchdown for the 49ers during the second half? I'm going to say that is Brandon Ayuk. Oh, for the Chiefs? Who will score the last offensive touchdown for the Chiefs during the second half? I'm going to say Pacheco. I'll say Pacheco there. Isaiah Pacheco. No. There you go. Isaiah Pacheco. Will a defensive player for the 49ers or Chiefs score a touchdown during the game? I'm going to say yes. 49ers get a defensive touchdown in this game. But that's a picture of that. Oh, you had a picture of Chris Jones. That's bad. What will be the color of the Gatorade bath during dumped on the head coach? I'm going to say, I'm going to go with this yellow lime. The yellow lime. The yellow, green, lemon. Yep, there you go. All right, there you go. There you go. Enjoy your selections. Locker with the pregame picks, and we appreciate Locker for sponsoring the pregame show. They're giving away $5,000 in cash when you play for free during the Super Bowl, or just scan that QR code to download and play with me during the game, or as we just did here, play during the pregame show. So absolutely awesome. Really enjoyed the show today. I hope you guys did as well. Go Niners. Join us for the postgame. Man, we're going to be fired up in the postgame show, hopefully talking about an incredible Super Bowl. I'm so excited. I can't wait. It's been an incredible year for the Niners, and if they could just get that one more win, one more W. Think good thoughts, guys. Join me for the post game, and thanks to all of you for joining right now on the Krueger Show, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we appreciate you, and we're out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you